Roger Stone, and you're in the War Room with Owen Schroyer. This is the expanded programming of Infowars.com, and we're very pleased by the audience reaction and the tremendous amount of fan mail we're starting to get. It really gives us an opportunity to lay out even more of the incisive investigative coverage that has really become the hallmark of InfoWars. See, we don't have a preordained conclusion for every major issue. We have principles, but we're interested in the facts, or as Alex Jones would say, we're interested in the truth. If you're not committed to the truth, what, of course, is the point? Speaking of the truth, a story by Gabriel Sherman, writing for the Vanity Fair magazine, has tongues wagging all across Washington and New York. Mr. Sherman has put forward a thesis that the Trump presidency is unraveling, that the president is increasingly angry, frustrated, and isolated, the implication being that he might even resign. Well, I've known Donald Trump for almost 40 years, just shy of it, and I can tell you definitively that he is not, above all, a quitter. There's zero chance that Donald Trump will walk away from the historic term that he has won in the White House. As for his frustration, however, as I told the Boston Globe only minutes ago, when you go to bed with dogs, you wake up with fleas. The president has every right to be angry about the men and women that he has appointed to high and esteemed office, who then seem that required, almost compelled, to go out in public and air their dirty laundry in public. Whether it was Rex Tillerson saying that when it came to the faux Charlottesville demonstration, and no no Anderson Cooper, you're wrong. The Charlottesville operation stinks of a false flag. I'm sure there were a few genuine white supremacists sprinkled through the crowd for the sake of credibility. That stunk of a Soros operation, a setup. Why would we possibly believe that Soros would do something like this? Well, the material published by Julian Assange at WikiLeaks showed definitively that they financed anti-Trump violence during the campaign and on the Trump campaign trail. If they would do it then, why would they not do it now? The point, of course, is that the president continues to be disserved by many of the men and women that he has appointed. On the other hand, if you appoint Gary Cohn from Goldman Sachs as your chief economic advisor, and Mr. Cohn is a liberal Democrat who is antithetical to everything Donald Trump stands for, if you appoint a globalist like Rex Tillerson, who essentially turned around and allowed Condoleezza Rice, the Secretary of State under George W. Bush, also the National Security Advisor, well, then you shouldn't be surprised when your appointees badmouth you in public. I guess Donald Trump is not a mainstream career politician, and perhaps he doesn't understand that there's an American tradition here, that if you work in the White House or in the administration, you owe your loyalty to the president and to that institution. If you have disagreements on policy, form, or anything else, you're entitled, in fact, I'd say you're required to voice them. But internally, inside the White House, not on the Sunday talk shows, not on the evening news. Yet we see again and again appointees like the new Homeland Security appointee, Kirstjen, I'm going to mispronounce her last name, maybe we can pull it up, but this woman was the deputy to John Kelly, a virulent anti-Trumper, a major Jeb Bush donor, and now, of course, she holds an august position in the Trump administration. So if the president is frustrated, if the president's angry, if the president is unhappy, I would say it's probably because he is being disserved by the people that he has appointed. Kirstjen Nielsen, pardon me, is the woman I was referring to. Now, those veterans of the Trump campaign who told me that they sought to go to work at DHS told me that this woman is the hatchet woman from hell. She is a longtime neocon, comes off the staff of Florida Senator Connie Mack, long service to the Bush crime family. That book, by the way, out in paperback now. You can get it at Amazon or Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, The Bush Crime Family by Roger Stone and St. John Hunt, outlines how the Bushes and their ilk have essentially brought our country to its knees, and their holy alliance, or I should say their unholy alliance with the Clintons is further exposed in the Clintons' war on women. What happened, Hillary? People read that book. That's what happened. The more they learned about Hillary Clinton, the less they liked her. In any event, there are some positive developments that I see out there. Very, very exciting news from South Carolina, where Pastor Mark Burns, an evangelical African-American pastor with a very substantial following, a major supporter of President Donald Trump, a personal friend of the president, is seriously considering a challenge to U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham in that state's Republican primary. Now, Graham was just elected in the most recent cycle, so the word is that Pastor Burns is thinking about a statewide office that comes up the same year as the governorship, maybe Secretary of State, maybe auditor, maybe controller, as a preparation for an all-out assault on quisling turncoat Lindsey Graham. Now, I know Mark Burns. He is a patriot. He is one of the most articulate men it has ever been my privilege to meet. And they have set up, I'm told, a nonprofit to assist him in his exploration of an all-out challenge to one of the worst rhinos in the U.S. Senate. Here's a trivia question. Which U.S. Senator, currently a Republican, said he would become a Democrat if Donald Trump won? The answer is Lindsey Graham, which is why I hope Mark Burns takes the plunge. I'm Roger Stone. You're at the War Room. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, and yes, you're in the right place. You're at the War Room here at Info. We're going to take a couple callers. This has proved to be a very popular part of the show, taking a cue from Alex Jones. I'm still trying to learn broadcasting from the master. But let's start with Andy in Nebraska, who's on the line. Andy.
Hi, Roger.
What's up?
Hi, Roger. It's an incredible honor to speak to you. You inspired me to get involved with politics. I'm 16, and I first wanted to ask you, have you heard anything on what the president plans to do in regards to the bump stock situation?
I have not. I can tell you this, that Donald Trump is one of the very, very, very few individuals who carries a concealed carry permit in New York City. These are rarer than hen's teeth. They're extremely difficult to get. The New York liberal bureaucracy essentially takes years to process your application right up until the time that they forget about it entirely. Donald Trump is and has always been a staunch defender of the Second Amendment. And therefore, I can sleep at night knowing that any kind of gun legislation that might come across his desk will be held up next to the Constitution to determine whether it's good, solid public policy. But thank you very much for your call, and thank you for getting involved. You say you're 16. That's when I started working for Richard Milhouse Nixon, and the rest, of course, is history. Many thanks for your call. Let's go to the next caller, Chance in Alaska. Chance, lay it on us.
Hey, how are we doing? I'm actually not familiar with you, so I just wanted to say thank you for having me on your show, and let's just enjoy this first moment together. About the Las Vegas massacre, I've been calling it the Raven Party. This is just a nickname I'm giving it, just a code name for the thing that I'm studying. I've been looking over these videos that have been posted on YouTube that are raw footage for a long time, and I've also been watching a show called American Vandal on Netflix, and there's a scene where they are tracking down all the footage from cell phones that they could find that were taken from one party, okay? And they were trying to track down the events that took place in the party. I took those same tactics that I had just learned from the show that I had just finished watching about less than a month ago, and I took it, that plus everything I've learned from Detective Joe Kenda on Homicide Hunter, and I applied it all to this case, trying to figure out the Las Vegas massacre. Okay, and this is what I found. Let's just pretend for a second that there was no shooter in the Mandalay Bay. Let's just forget about that being a factor right now. We're only talking about the dead people on the ground right now. We're only talking about ground level. Okay? There's a video of a girl who is looking towards the Mandalay Bay, okay? So she's looking at Jason Aldean, and she's in the very back opposite corner from the Mandalay Bay. Single shots go out, okay? And they come from behind her. That's where the sniper shots are coming from. Then people are dropping. Commotion is now everybody's panicking, right? Because people are dropping. And not only that, there are these sympathy actors everybody's been talking about, okay, and they are told to just create mass confusion and make them run, get them running so we can herd them. Then there's a video of a cop who is corrupt, I'm supposing, stands in the way of the only entrance exit out of that place that is like, it's an open area. Everywhere else is at least waist high. He comes and blocks and tells people, no, go east. Where's east? The airport, a dead end. Field, nothing, darkness. People are not going to run that way. They're going to run towards the light. So then they run towards the light. Where three shooters, one who I'm thinking has an MP7 because he's got earmuffs on. Now let me back this up real quick. As the single shots are going out, these two girls, they stand there for a second. One of them looks back with the camera, looks right where the shots came from at the people who are looking out into the crowd to see what's going to happen. Then she looks back, but then she breaks them. Before she looks all the way back at Jason Aldean again, she looks back towards them once more, okay? Now, if you guys have seen this on YouTube, you know what video I'm talking about. She then looks back towards Jason Aldean, then the automatic firing goes off. Then she and her friend run straight back to the shooters, and they hide behind the guy with the loudest automatic weapon who is wearing earmuffs. And he's dressed like a staff member, and he has a blue shirt on. He's standing next to a guy with a white shirt on who I think has the Uzi, which is not as loud as the MP7. Then the single shot is the K9 shirt-wearing guy with a brown shirt, and it says K9, and then I think it says like event something. I can't read the part, but the big letters say K9 on his shirt, and it's a brown shirt. and he has a dog leash in the left hand and what I'm guessing would probably be a single-shot weapon in the right hand, because how is he going to shoot with both hands if he's holding a dog leash while all this is going on, right? So he's using his single shot sparingly. That's why you only hear it a few times in the beginning before this all happens. Then they are all ushered away then by that one cop, right? But then this guy runs up and the cop disappears within the same second, like within a split second of each other. The cop disappears. This guy with a brown shirt runs up, and then a guy runs up behind him. You can barely see him on the camera because the brown shirt is running in front of the camera while that other guy is behind that guy. And he puts, remember that fence that they were carrying with that girl with the red fence? They placed that and blocked the exit. Then the guy in the brown shirt turns around and starts screaming and pointing, go east, go this way, don't go that way, which is the exit. Why not? People are telling him, let us out of here. He's not letting them. Go this way, go this way, go that way, yelling, commanding them at the top of his lungs. People are saying, fuck it, okay, I'll do it. So they go that way, and then they're ushered through past the people who are waiting from behind that car where it's all well lit, okay? Where they're standing, it's all well lit behind them. Then, it's fenced behind them, by the way. Then there's two sets of tents, right? And there's a corridor in between that leads back up to the stage, which hooks around into the front of the stage area, okay? They were ushered into that corridor area. Then those three men opened up fire on everybody from behind them and just ran them down, mowed them down all the way to the front of the stage. And the front of the stage area is well lit, just in case any survivors come. The people who are waiting in the crowd area where everybody was supposed to be standing because the concert was still supposed to be going on at this time safely, they're standing there waiting to grab people who come out and say, go this way, go this way. They got people at least 3 times like that. You heard at least 3 sets of gunshots go out. That's why you heard 3 sets of gunshots. Now let's talk about the false flags. Let's talk about the term false flags. Where in the F did it come from, okay? Let's just talk about it, though. False flags. Everybody who didn't get shot right away, they were wearing flag shirts, okay? This is where the false flag comes in play. False
Chance,
flag.
I'm sorry that I'm going to have to cut you short there, but we are short on time. I do want to thank you for that excellent analysis. The citizen journalists, those who report in here at Infowars.com, are the ones who will get to the bottom of the Las Vegas story. I'm Roger Stone. We'll be right back. Well, there you have it, Street Fighting Man. That could be Alex Jones's theme music. We're here at the War Room, and now I'm very proud to have a gentleman who I had on my syndicated radio show, the Stone Cold Truth, a number of months ago. Andrew Kerr with Citizens Audit may be the country's foremost authority on the nefarious and, in my opinion, largely illegal activities of one David Brock. Now, if you are familiar with Mr. Brock, he wrote a terrific book called The Education of Hillary Rodham, in which he documented the fact that it was Hillary Clinton who hired the heavy-handed private detectives and the nasty lawyers to serial threaten the various women who were sexually assaulted and, yes, in some cases, raped by Bill Clinton. Brock was once a conservative. I guess he was once a mercenary, always a mercenary, but now he's gone to the dark side, representing a failed organization that spent millions of dollars to elect Hillary Clinton, mostly at the largesse of George Soros, and of course, as you know, failed. It's very, very hard to spend that kind of money and achieve almost nothing. Now, when I spoke at Fordham University only days ago, I noticed that the small band of dissidents who were there to shout down the speakers and try to silence us were reading their questions from their cell phones. And almost all of these questions came from faulty, flawed, and in some cases totally bogus research from the Media Matters for Dog Shit organization. I kind of wondered, why can't these people write their own questions? Now, if you ask me, David Brock is the man at the intersection of treason, pedophilia, satanic ritual murder, perhaps harvesting of our children, election fraud, and charity fraud. I say allegedly, because unfortunately he has not yet been dragged into a court of law. No one has done a better job of uncovering the outrageous and repugnant illegal activities of one David Brock than Andrew Kerr. Welcome to the War Room, Andrew.
Hi, Roger. Thanks for having me on. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So why don't you kind of had three different areas. I've been looking at some of your excellent work here. You filed an omnibus complaint with the Federal Election Committee, but I'm going to let you tell the tale. You've been focusing on David Brock and Media Matters now for several years, and you found a pattern that every American should find troubling. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just a little bit over a year. So I think I'll go crazy if I spend more than any more time digging into this guy. But yeah, so on Tuesday, I filed a Federal Election Commission's complaint against three of David Brock's organizations: American Bridge Superpac, American Bridge 21st Century Superpac, American Bridge 21st Century Foundation, a nonprofit organization, and Correct the Record Superpac. Many may remember Correct the Record as funding the online trolls to shill for Hillary during the 2016 election. The complaint and the facts that support the complaint is unbelievably complicated, so I'm going to try to keep it high level. Essentially, what I found was that American Bridge 21st Century Super PAC appears to be abusing its cost-sharing relationship with American Bridge Foundation in order to funnel in donations through American Bridge 21st Century Foundation, the nonprofit, in the form of expense reimbursements. American Bridge Foundation has reimbursed over $11 million of expenses from 2011 through the end of June 2017, according to Federal Election Commission reports. Not $1 of that is considered as a contribution. They're all expense reimbursements for the purpose of staff and overhead expenses. The math shows that an estimated 92% of all of American Bridge Foundation's shared expenditures are for shared employees. Now, my website, the Citizens Audit that you were just showing on the screen, I have an explainer that goes in great depth into this cost-sharing relationship, and I show over the course of 12,000 words that beginning in 2011 through mid-2013, the arrangement makes sense. These expense reimbursements look like salary reimbursements. But then as we move into 2014 and then into 2015 and then all the way through 2017, things start to really break in the arrangement. There's some reporting errors when you look at the foundation's reporting versus the Super PAC's reporting. I mean, we've got, just keep in mind that these expense reimbursements are for shared employees, for employee salaries. Exactly $190,000 the foundation paid the Super PAC, followed by exactly $225,000, followed by exactly $49,000, followed by exactly $20,000, and then $110,000. And then there's a $315,000 check for shared employees. To me, that doesn't make any sense. Added to that, I found that in 2013 and 2015, the 2 years I was able to locate the foundation's reporting to the IRS that included their list of contributors, we can see the amount that was donated to the foundation, but not the identity of who donated. There's almost a dozen instances where donations to the foundation are exact matches to the expense reimbursements that it paid to the Super PAC. That doesn't make sense, and that's really what we're calling out. What I'm calling out in the complaint that I filed on Tuesday. It doesn't appear that these are honest expense reimbursements that the foundation is paying the Super PAC. So why would they engage in such a scheme? Well, the foundation that reports to the IRS is not required to disclose the identity of its donors. This is what a lot of people call dark money in politics, whereas the super PAC is required to disclose the identity of its donors. For instance, we can see that George Soros has donated a couple $1 million to American Bridge Super PAC over the years. So say if somebody wants to support the cause but doesn't want their identity disclosed to the super PAC or to the public, what they can do under the scheme, it appears, is that just donate to the foundation, and then they will just arbitrarily create expenses in the form of shared employees, and then pass it through to the super PAC. I found this out because when I was looking at the foundation's reporting, we have their reporting from 2011 through 2015 through Form 990s they filed to the IRS. In that time frame, the foundation paid almost $7 million in employee salaries to 0 employees, because they supposedly share the super PAC's employees. So that's pretty strange. That how do you pay almost $7 million to 0 employees year after year after year? And so that's a quick rundown of what we're calling out with American Bridge. I've also filed, or one of the counts in the complaint is against Correct the Record Super PAC, and this one is a lot more simple. In a WikiLeaks email dated late 2015, Correct the Record sent like a brag sheet to its donors, and it said that Correct the Record has sent emails to the larger Ready for Hillary list. Ready for Hillary was a now defunct super PAC as well, which has been consumed more than 400,000 times. Well, the only problem is that Correct the Record never made any payments towards Ready for Hillary. They didn't make any payments for or to rent or purchase that email list.
Andrew, I'm going to stop because this is crucial information. We're going to pick it up on the other side. People need to know about this criminal enterprise. So stay with us. You're on the War Room, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, and we are midstream in a very important discussion with Andrew Kerr of Citizens Audit. Now, David Brock, the notorious former conservative, now ultra-liberal, or perhaps he was just always a mercenary, has not been seen publicly since his heart attack several months ago. Now, I can think of a number of people who would hope that he would succumb to this heart attack, but none more than George Soros, because Mr. Brock milked Mr. Soros for millions of dollars and spent them quite ineffectively. I don't know how you have this kind of financial advantage, the advantage plied by Brock and his Confederates, and achieve absolutely nothing. Well, that's not totally true. They produce these bogus talking points that they recycle ad nauseum. Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, Roger Stone, Alex Jones, they're white supremacists, they're bigots, they're racists, they're anti-Semites. That's all bunk. It's nonsense, but you can find it in the David Brock handbook, and he takes a very healthy compensation for compiling this garbage. So let's go back to Andrew. Help us continue to break down exactly what Mr. Brock is up to.
Right. So I went pretty in depth in the last segment. So let me pull myself out again and just put it this way, put it very simply. So for years, almost a decade, conservatives in the media have been talking about something needs to be done about David Brock, or something needs to be done about Media Matters. Why isn't anybody doing anything about Media Matters? Why isn't the government not looking into their activities? Well, here it is that I'm providing to you on a golden platter. The questions that I'm addressing in this complaint that I filed on Tuesday to the Federal Election Commission are very serious, and they deserve to be answered. It calls into question the cost-sharing relationship between Brock's organizations, most notably American Bridge 21st Century Super PAC and American Bridge 21st Century Foundation. As I discussed in the last segment, over 92%, an estimated 92% of American Bridge Foundation's shared expenditures, which exceeded $11 million from 2011 through June 2017, over 90% of those shared expenditures are for employee salaries. So the solution is very simple. since the math makes it appear as if the foundation is overpaying what it truly owes to the super PAC in the form of expense reimbursements. What the Federal Election Commission needs to do is review the employee timesheets that American Bridge Foundation told the IRS it keeps in order to ensure that neither organization is financially supporting the activities of the other. So American Bridge, which utilizes a shared pool of employees for both the super PAC and the foundation, I'm asking the Federal Election Commission to review each and every employee timesheet for each and every single pay period at American Bridge from March 2011 through the end of June 2017. That's the only way to ensure that the expense reimbursements over $11 million are legitimate. Furthermore, since American Bridge Foundation states in its Form 1024, which was its request for nonprofit status, it filed to IRS in 2013, that its cost-sharing agreement is designed to ensure that neither organization, the foundation and the super PAC, American Bridge that is, are financially supporting the activities of the other. So their employee timesheets would also be used theoretically to calculate their other shared expenditures, such as office space and IT costs that they have told the press and the IRS throughout the years. Now, this is where it gets really exciting. From 2011 through June 2017, Federal Election Commission records for American Bridge Super PAC show that the Super PAC has paid Media Matters for America almost $500,000 in shared office space and employees. So an investigation into American Bridge and their cost-sharing agreement is inevitably going to lead to looking at Media Matters for America. So this complaint could be looked at as a door into Media Matters. Furthermore, since Media Matters is a nonprofit organization that reports to the IRS is not actually required to respond to complaints. And I know that over the years, many people have tried to file complaints against Media Matters for appearing not to live up to a tax-deductible charity standard. However, American Bridge Super PAC reports to the Federal Election Commission. Now, I'm not just blowing hot air here. The Federal Election Commission is actually required to respond to the complaint that I sent them. They're required to acknowledge that they received it. They're required to send a copy to the respondents, which would be American Bridge 21st Century Super PAC, American Bridge Foundation, and correct the record, and allow them to have time to respond to the allegations. So David Brock and everybody in his network, they're going to see this complaint, and they must respond to the Federal Election Commission with their excuse why this shouldn't be taken seriously. But this is a really easy solution. American Bridge said they keep employee timesheets. This should take all of 5 minutes for them to go into the filing cabinet where their employee timesheets supposedly exist, give them to the Federal Election Commission to review their records to ensure that their expense reimbursements are legitimate. If they aren't, if American Bridge Foundation overpaid by any amount under this cost-sharing agreement, and that unpaid amount would be considered an unreported political contribution. If you give something of value to a super PAC, even though everybody talks about Citizens United and whatnot, but if you give something of value to a super PAC, it must be properly reported. Citizens United does not allow a nonprofit organization to mask contributions as expense reimbursements. That is not legal. If American Bridge comes out and says, "Oh, this is all legal under Citizens United," no. If they're overpaying under their cost sharing agreement, that's not legal. And that's what we're calling out in this complaint. So I see we only have a little bit more time. So we're under a bit of a time crunch here. The ball is in the Federal Election Commission's court. Most notably, there's 5 federal election commissioners, and they're going to be holding a vote, either yes or no, whether to act on this complaint. And so I really need help from your viewers and from the media at large to help shine a light on the work that I've done. I'm just one guy trying to do my best. I put in a considerable amount of time, money, and effort into producing this complaint, mostly because I just think it's the right thing to do. So if you could help me, either, show my donation button there, that would be very helpful. But also, I need people to help me champion this.
Tell them the website address so we can be very clear here. Where can folks go who want to help this extraordinary citizens effort? You really undersell yourself. You're more than one man. You're like an army. I've been following this for a number of years. You've done an extraordinary job trying to bring this culprit to justice. And we want people to know where they can go to support your important work. So tell us again the exact web address.
So it's right up there, thecitizensaudit.com. You have to put in the. So thecitizensaudit.com. There you can find the complaint, and then you can find the explainer that goes into great detail. It's a very technical document. It has dozens of links to everything. All my research is based off of publicly available information, and it's really a shame that the Federal Election Commission and the IRS have completely missed this. It appears that this arrangement is set up so where like the area in between where neither the Federal Election Commission or the IRS is looking, that's where all the issues are. And you're scrolling through it now. It's a very large document. So I could really use.
They're probably taking their investigative advice from Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Thank you very much for joining us, Andrew. And while you've got your checkbook out, let me ask you go to the Infowars.com store, because we're not able to bring you incredible reports like the one you have just heard without your support. We don't have a George Soros standing in the wings like David Brock writing multi-million-dollar checks. We have to depend completely and solely on you, on liberty-minded patriots and the info warriors out there who have learned over time that you can get the very best all-natural products, some of the best things on the market, and you can help the fight for freedom right here at InfoWars. You got extraordinary sales now. My favorite, 50% off for Brain Force, 40% off for Survival Shield. You're not going to see these price reductions much longer, folks. Move while you can. Help us, help yourself. And I'm Roger Stone. Victory or death.